Everyone, welcome to another edition of Independent Artist Tonight Song Series. This episode is almost too big for this show. Today we have the mystical high priestess from Costa da Morta and the leader of the Church of the Final Days, circuit preacher, and Zarina. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for
Hey
having
everybody.
me.
Thank you so much for doing this today. I love this song, by the way. I love the song Fall Damage. Everybody go get it now if you haven't got it from either Circuit Preacher Bandcamp or Zarina Bandcamp. It's awesome. Um, how did this idea of you two collaborating come together? I know you're on the same label, but I mean, of course, you don't do collabs with everybody on your label. So I'm just curious how it came about.
Uh, do you want to start, Tyler?
I'm sure. I think Zarina was one of the first people I talked to when I joined the label about 2 years ago now. It feels weird how fast that time has gone. And I love their music and the vision, and I think we kind of connected early on with our mutual love of Tool and A Perfect Circle and things like that, and esoteric imagery and stuff. Yeah, it was just kind of in the background for a while, and then we've worked on a couple things behind the scenes, trying to find something to work together. But I wrote this song, and initially I was planning on it being, it was kind of in the catalog of things to maybe put on an album, but it felt, I don't know, I just felt drawn to share it with Zorino because it just felt like it kind of matched the energy and it would probably be a good opportunity. So that's how I would prefer to collab, is that it's, you know, feels like it makes sense for both artists and it's going to be something that we can make awesome instead of trying to wrangle something, and you know it's just a little bit tough. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I wrote kind of the lyrics and the melody and some chord stuff, but then Zarina took it and turned it into something, amazing.
So you basically had the song, a demo of it that you sent to Zarina, and you're like, "Hey, are you interested in?"
Yeah, the
Yeah.
demo was awesome. Actually, it had so many great ideas that I could work with. He actually sent it to me, I think it was like around September last year. And I was trying like, I've been trying to make time to get to it, but I was in the middle of finishing and releasing the last record. And then I finally was able to get to it like around the holidays and then finished it um yeah, like right around January. But it was like it went through several different variants,
Yeah.
and and then I kind of just like I sat on it and I was just like, let me, like, I know I could push this more. And then the demo actually had a pretty long intro. So what I did was like, okay, you know what? Let's just rearrange this and then just get to the meat right away. So
Yeah.
what was his performance? Like, it's so awesome. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to get to the performance right away.
Yeah.
And but the structure, the bones, the way it was written was so, it was one of the easiest things for me to produce, because it already had all the elements that I could play around with, and also brought a lot of inspiration in terms of like how the brass horns would come in and how, like, the strings would come in, and plus like I added some top line piano melodies on top. Um, and it just flowed. It's just one of those
Mm.
that flowed, and at the end, yeah, it sounded like somebody did say this to us on Instagram. It sounded like early Depeche Mode meets Hans Zimmer. And that's exactly what I wanted. Like, I'm a huge Hans Zimmer fan. It's funny because I'm like, what am I doing in the whole dark wave, like, scene, when I really want to do like some big orchestral music? But so far it's working, mixing the two worlds. And the lyrics, the words, are so stunning and so relevant
Mm,
that like and that's what I really really appreciate about the song is it's saying something that is so important right now. And so when we made the video, at first we were like, okay, what are we gonna do for visuals, Tyler? Like, at first we were like, okay, let's just do some visualizers for Spotify, whatever, let's keep it easy.
yeah.
And then and then
And then
they
you're like, no, I need my sword.
well, that was actually I sent him a treatment for the visualizer. I was like, okay, like this is what I'm thinking. Let me know what you think. So I sent him a mood board and then we said, cool, okay, this looks awesome. We filmed it. And then I was like, why don't we make it into a lyric video? And then so he
Mm,
performed like, some his set in Virginia. It was recorded by his wife. And then at the end, I was like, you know what? We have enough material to make this into like a real video.
mm,
And I couldn't just half-ass it, it's
yeah.
just not in my bone to
No,
like let something.
half-assing is just not what you do.
It's just not, no, I was just like, I have the material. He looks great. His performance is amazing. Let's just go all in. So
To the mountain.
yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, well, I love the video. I'm curious, Zarina, do you have like some like huge walk-in closet with all of your costumes in? Because I really want to walk into that
Um,
walk-in closet someday.
Actually, no, I don't have a walk-in closet. I mean, we have a closet, but it's also being used as that's like our computer studio. That's our rather
Ah, okay.
that's where like the editing, all the film work happens. So
Ah, okay,
just
okay.
like our little
So
studio. But
closet slash
that was my
editing room.
closet. That was my closet. So now no, they're just like in trunks. So all my costumes are just in trunks, and then if I need them, I'll just them up.
And what did you think, Tyler, when you had this like kind of basic demo and then it starts coming back with all the Zarina-esque touches on it? It must have been a bit like opening gifts at Christmas all the time.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a lot different than I would think of, which I love. You know, it's just it's refreshing to work with someone that is, just thinks totally opposite, uses different sound palettes.
Mm,
Um, I do think we have a similar taste of aesthetics to some degree, so that works a lot. But I think what blew me away, maybe even more than the music, which I do really, I mean, I was blown away by the song, was all the visuals, the art, like I remember when she sent me the video, I was like, well, what are you thinking? And I'll try to make something similar to match. And of course, it's like, oh, I'm some sort of wraith angel on a beach with a super badass sword. And I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. I'm looking outside my house like, yeah, let me think of what I could do to,
I could do some gardening with a
yeah,
little,
like
oh,
better than any scene from Lord of the Rings I've ever seen. And, like, yeah, well, let me think about that for a little bit. And I just go in the room and hit my head against the wall.
You guys did great though. I mean,
yeah.
it was
Well, I
perfect.
mean, too, when you have the circuit preacher stuff on, you don't have to do much, you can just be like, oh, awesome.
I just kind of play into being transhumanist or something.
But it looked like when I got the footage that they did, it actually looked like Galicia. I was like,
Yeah, well,
"Wow."
that was crazy. I showed it to
Yeah.
Emrys, my wife, and I was kind of stressed about it. I'm like, I don't know where we're going to go that we can make something that looks, comparable. And they had the idea, so we went over, and it's like an old pump house that's abandoned that for some reason just looks incredibly gothic and castle-y. It's like the
Yeah.
most pump house you can imagine.
Wait, what kind of house again? Come again?
A, a pump house, like a water by it, and I guess it's they're redoing it, but it's not functioning right now.
I thought it was a Gothic church.
No, yeah, it's
Yeah.
a I guess water treatment facility that for some reason looks awesome.
Yeah, it definitely gave me the vibe that you're like up on the hill in a castle and
Yeah.
Zarina is on the beach
Right.
doing her uh
Out of the architecture. So, I mean, Galicia is very rustic. It's very Game of Thrones. So, like, actually, they've
yeah, Game of
they shoot,
Thrones.
some of Game of Thrones stuff here, but a lot of the buildings look like the building that where you
Mm,
shot. So I thought it was
yeah.
perfect when Deadly Kawaii and I got the footage. We were like, yeah, they did so great. It's gonna be so easy. It was like the easiest editing I've ever done.
It was definitely the easiest filming we've done because it was outside.
Mm,
And usually the problem is like every idea I have is like dark, dungeony, and it's just such a pain to try to make it
yeah.
look good on a unless you have a really nice camera. So being outside, I was like, wow, this actually looks really nice.
Yeah.
Like maybe I have
Well,
more stuff outside.
I
That's
mean,
why I would
it
shoot
was
outside.
yeah. I was just gonna say, I think it was really good for this song too, because this song like strikes me as more I mean, like Zarina said, getting to the goods right away is like just more of this kind of pop structure, for like in the circuit preacher catalog, and I think it was like very fitting that just like I'm ready for my close up, it was like cool to see your face so well and see, oh wow, this is a good looking guy, and that never hurts,
Also nice to like bring out like the softer side of circuit
Yeah.
and to see
Uh,
another facet, and it adds more to the mystique and the intrigue behind the circuit preacher brand, I think.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Let's get into a bit about because Zarina mentioned the lyrics and what the song's about. Could you read the lyrics for us, Tyler? Do you have them handy,
I don't have them handy. I'm sorry.
or can you talk us through what the song is about?
So basically, I was writing this from a lot of my inspiration during this writing period was coming from, I guess to put it simply, fallen angels,
Mm,
or beings that are created for a certain purpose. And so this is from the perspective of a whatever word you want to use. I don't want to necessarily use Christian language, but like fallen angels, demigods they're separate from the created source and they're not intended to be with the creator. And
mm,
they're so to me, I gain a lot of writing and poetic inspiration from these kind of emotions with them being eternal. So,
mm,
we experience betrayal and fear and feeling slighted. And it's a unique experience because we don't know how long we're going to live. I could live to be 40, I could live to be 90, but you imagine how it would feel to be abandoned or slighted for 600 years or 7,000 years.
mm,
And would it make you calloused? Would like how I to me it just brings a lot more angles to write and makes my brain just think of different words, adjectives,
mm,
ways to phrase things, thinking of things eternally.
yeah.
And doing that, in my opinion, brings some healing. And I think that's why we love myths is a lot of them are about eternal things. And so we think about these grand things and grand betrayals, and it makes ours seem easier to handle, I guess, or looking up to someone who's handled way more than that.
Mm,
So that was kind of the inspiration. But I guess for this specific song, it's about a fallen angel. They are intended to never be with Creator, and they're accepting of that. So um, the
mm,
other maybe some of the other demigods or archangels, whatever word you want to use, that are intended to be with the creator, they have all these interactions, I imagine, in my mind. And so that's what the chorus is about. It's like, you can hate me, but I don't feel fall damage, which, yes, is kind of a double meaning from the video game term of, you fall and then you could die. So the point is that this character is immortal. They fell intentionally, but they don't feel that. And you can hate them for being who they are, but that's who they are, is they're not something that can die, but they were meant to fall. So like this is their um destiny, if you will. So yeah.
Oh, cool. This has happened to me so many times on this show where I hear, what the songwriter was intending, and then I'm so excited to go back and listen to it again. I hope everyone that's watching feels the same way because I love that stuff. I'm like all about metaphysical, like it's like if Vero and I start talking, it's about 5 seconds till it's some metaphysical something.
Right. Oh, and
So
um,
think that's
part of
why
it.
Tyler and I kind of connected because, you know, um, he and I, the way we go about music and our art, it's always gnosis based, you know?
Mm,
And it's like, yeah, there's an element of spiritual awakening or reckoning, you know? And also a lot of the there's like I see a lot of convergence
mm,
between our worlds, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Um and I think that's how I saw like, I saw the alignment there. So there's the ability to see more beyond just the stories, the myths, the legends and all that.
Mm,
I find all that really, really fascinating. And he and I have spoken about religion as well, and
mm,
I've spoken about my own experience with being brought up Catholic actually. And he's shared some of his experiences as well with his, and I think that there's it gives a different or a new color to what we do. Um,
mm,
it gives a very different perspective and it gives a different facet to the art as well. It's
mm.
not just like cool music and cool visuals. Like,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
here
yeah, yeah.
trying to say something and trying to make meaning out of life experiences. Um,
Mhm.
That's so interesting. Well, I think it was very artfully done because you also don't like you could interpret the song many different ways, right? It could just it's open up enough to just be kind of like a, hey, you know, these poor kids broke up or whatever. I mean, you could
Yeah.
read different things into it. So it's really cool that you come from that way. But it's interesting because uh, Zarino said to me, "Oh, there's so many aspects to this song. We're gonna get into it. I really love what it's about and everything." So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna figure out what this is about.
So
So
here's another a part of it that I guess I don't know, some people might like is I don't know if you've ever read the short. It's a shorter book. I don't know if I call it a short story, called A Mysterious Stranger or The Mysterious Stranger.
oh yeah, with the tall oh no, that's the stranger I'm thinking of. Oh,
Um, well, it's a short book, but
yeah.
it really is about a fallen angel. I think it technically is Lucifer in the book that like comes down to planet Earth, and he's like hanging out with kids in this village and teaching them all these things about how they have moral sense, but he doesn't, and he can just create people and destroy them, and they get really upset about it. But he's like kind of indifferent to it because he's eternal, and so that was kind of in the first verse. Partly, I think after I wrote it, I was like, I think I was kind of subconsciously impacted by that because that's kind of what I meant by, words can break you down and
Mm,
change you, ordinary man. I don't blame you if you need to take some time. Like an eternal
mm,
being, a mortal being that like you can be very hurt by things, and I understand you're upset, but like that's because you're just an ordinary person, and so
mm,
I think it almost feels like a little bit of like a higher being teaching a lower being how to accept, you know.
This is how it is, kind of. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting though, because with the cover that with the hand and the snake coming around and the fall damage, I thought of the fall of man, right? So I'm thinking about the Garden of Eden, and Eve picking the apple and yeah, eating from the tree of knowledge and original sin and all this stuff. And then I thought that's what you were talking about because like fall damage, I was thinking is like this concept of original sin, which is like I was thinking is so damaging because I'm really thinking about like all we really need is unconditional love, This is like a main thing that I'm thinking about right now. It's like spiritually, And I realized like with this whole idea of the fall of man and the original sin and everything, like then it's conditional love from then on out. You know what I mean? And like and you're like personifying God as the Father, and it's a setup right away of this conditional love that I think is like really damaging. You know what I mean? So I was hearing like there's some hero saying, no, 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 I'm not playing by those rules. I'm not carrying shame from some original sin. So
Yeah,
that was my interpretation.
absolutely. I think that could certainly be, a another layer to it is that, you're told that like you are broken and, you need helping and you are damaged. So like say, no, I'm not is for some reason radical, but um, yeah, I could definitely see that being kind of another layer to it for sure.
I
And
want
the cover is actually, it's interesting that you brought up the cover and the snake in gold.
mm,
It's actually, well, when I was putting together the treatment for the visuals, there was the time that, yeah, Tyler and I talked about Catholicism, and then I was like, you know
mm,
what? At least the Catholics, they embrace their vanity,
mm,
and whether, however they try to, whatever image they try to project themselves to be, right? They're definitely like the Catholic religion, Roman Catholicism particularly, there's definitely that grandeur to it,
mm,
which is why I created the snake to be gold,
mm,
but actually in my own, beliefs, snake represents wisdom.
mm,
And so that's like another thing to add is that there is wisdom to be had.
mm,
Like, all the pain and experiences,
Mhm.
especially the snake coming out of the stigmata. Um,
mm.
there's that wisdom coming out as well, to
Yeah. This is very interesting because you mentioned this gnosis too, because well, the things that come up on my YouTube, but now I have this guy coming up that's this, theologian, no, not theologian. How do you say it? Theologian. And he was talking about the Gnostic Gospels of Jesus Christ, these ones that they found around 1943 or 45, somewhere in there. And like the Gospel according to St. Thomas, and there's one of Judas and Mary Magdalene and stuff like that. And he was saying that a lot of people interpret actually the snake as Jesus Christ. Actually,
Mhm.
a lot of people interpret like the serpent as Jesus Christ, which I hadn't heard before. But it's interesting because I am so drawn, like you said, there's so much mythology, and you mentioned Catholicism. I mean, I love that mythology. It's like it's so fun, and there's something. It just feels so good to dive into it. And then I always think, why did the humans ruin this so much?
Oh yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. There's some of the Gnostic sects of, I guess you'd call it Christianity. They were vastly different, and I mean, I guess a lot of Christian churches today or denominations would consider it, heretical, like you were saying, for you to
Mm,
consider that um, god of this earth is just the demiurge, and he was born from a, you know, mistake essentially. He's given dominion over this earth, and some people, you know, those
Yeah.
earlier seen, you know, the snake as almost like a savior figure because the demiurge was putting a soul, putting these higher souls into finite bodies as like a punishment to get back at the higher level creator. And so, um, yeah, it is kind of a twist. It's sort of a
Yeah, that's like some Greek mythology shit right there.
and like, why have I never heard
They
this?
will they will vilify whatever they're afraid of. Basically, that's what.
Yeah, yeah,
Stuff.
yeah, yeah. It's all, yeah. This they want to control the narrative. That's for sure. But I also want to talk about something about the arrangement of the song that I love because I was just like, as a songwriter myself, listening to it. First of all, I just love that you know, the synth bass ascending line, and it's just it gives it this it's just like this solid structure. Maybe it's a bit what you were talking about, Zarina, where there was just this structure where you can put different stuff, you know, like it's such a solid structure to build on, you know. And then I was like, oh, where are they going to go to this, you know? And I was because I was expecting the big strings and the big sorry, and then with the previous circuit preacher material, I was expecting you to go into the scream at the end, you know? And I thought it was so cool that it kind of drops off and then it goes into this like Czarina choir, ethereal choir, and then goes into this beautiful like kind of string melody and like ends quietly, you know. And I thought, I mean, did that happen right away, or did you guys talk about that? Because I thought that was such a cool artistic choice.
I think well, it just flowed. When I was working on the arrangements and basically doing all the so when the song was given to me, it was in a very rare not rare, sorry, raw format, but it had really really cool parts. And
Mm,
that had, like, that I had to go in and rebuild from the ground up, right? But the way Tyler performed the song, that was actually like in the way he did the verses, the
mm,
progression into the chorus, and then there was like a brief break. That's what I was following. And that kind of, and so
mm,
when I was building the arrangements, I was following his voice the entire time.
mm.
And my job was to complement it, to make sure that gets carried. And then
Yeah.
at the parts where we had the big drops, I wanted to make sure that it was impactful, but at the same time it was lifting him. So
Mm,
that was the whole thing, that was, at least that was my approach. Even with my vocals, I wanted to be part of the ambience. I didn't want it to be front and center, which is usually in my songs. Like, my vocals have always been front and center. No, like, no, I'm here to be part of the arrangements, to
mm,
give support. And um so, and also I was thinking in spectral form. Like, I was thinking of depth in the room. And so when I
mm,
was doing the production, I always kind of had Tyler at the center front, but surrounded with the instruments. So that's how
mm,
I wanted it to feel.
mm,
That's why there's this kind of like very atmospheric vibe. And I wanted to, especially when you're working with strings and big giant saw basses, and
mm,
like horns. When there's a lot of instruments like that, you kind of have to think in orchestral format, where you have to be so conscious of where you place your instruments, and then how
mm,
they're interacting with the room and how they're interacting with the vocalist. And so, like, basically what was guiding it was actually Tyler's performance.
mm,
I don't want to take away from what he's trying to say and from what he's trying to project, and I'm there to like make sure he's carried through. So
Mm.
so a lot of that did lend itself. It's not a very traditional song structure.
Yeah,
Um and but that's I think that's what's cool about it because it did lend itself
yeah,
to a very cinematic type of it almost feels like a film score type of
yeah,
work.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think you did a beautiful job on that, and your vocals are gorgeous. The way they weave in and out, and just like you're saying, is part of it. But also, Tyler is so. It was so great to hear your voice like this, and you have a great singing voice. You know that can like really um, carry a song like this. You know, which is maybe not so easy. You know, your voice is really out there in front, and you have to. You know, you got to do the do out there. You know?
Yeah.
But
Actually, my
what made
first
you?
mix was actually like his voice was a lot more fried, and he was like, "Wait, hold on, let's push it back a little bit," you know. But I was like, "But your voice is so beautiful," but you
Yeah,
know.
but I mean, Tyler, what inspired you to kind of take this approach? Was it just the vibe that you felt from the start with the song, or were you
Yeah.
thinking consciously, I want to do something a little different, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think I wrote it initially because I was trying to write a lot of things for the album that felt like they go into each other.
Mm,
So I wrote these ideas to kind of flow into this other track, right? Then I ended up not using that track for several reasons. So I just had this kind of like all these ideas that were supposed to be more like theatrical building into something different.
mm,
And I was like, well, I really like the second verse. So I basically just took that and made a whole track based on the second verse. But that whole thing, the you can tell by the tone they use with certain words, they don't care if you get hurt. That kind of like meandering, um, I don't know what word to use for that, monologue-ish
mm,
verse was like the beginning of it, and then I built everything else around around that. But I mean, some of the things that I love that Zarina did is, you know, you can hear she it takes it very professionally working around the things, like even that bell thing that's like dun 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 dun. You know, it's very creative. The intervals are it kind of like perks your ear. There's like a couple notes that aren't. I don't even know if they're necessarily diatonic. It could be the tone, but it didn't sound totally diatonic to me. So it was nice to have something kind of like was interesting, but it's higher than the vocals. And then you know the way that your voice it repeats, so it's not necessarily front and center, but like the repetition kind of makes it just feel like it rises as the song continues. But
mm.
I think the part that it was funny when I listened to it for the first time, I was blown away, and then I got near the end, and I was a little bit surprised that you kept my kick drum. There was like a five or six couplet, yeah, because it's like I love just old school EBM kick drums that are on like Kawhi drum and stuff that sound ridiculous, and it and
I love that part too.
it kind of feels like a huge timpani. And I was
Yeah,
like, I
yeah.
anyone's really done that before. So funny because like I chuckled at that part, and then when it got to the kind of the climax near the end, where she kind of holds that note like just a tiny bit longer than you would expect, it was like really emotional. I was like, man, this is a really cool song. I don't think I've felt like this many things listening to something in a while. So I was really amazed and proud to be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, I just want to also I want to say with your vocal too that it has like well, of course this is a singer talking, but there's like there's kind of like certain things like a little performance things that you do that is like at the end of a line or something like this, and this like fast vibrato coming in here and there that sounds like it's something that you have developed by doing it all the time, but I don't think I've heard it before with Circuit Preacher. So it was just like it just sounded so confident, you know, that you were doing things like that. It wasn't you didn't sound like, oh geez, I'm singing like this now. I hope you know what I mean. It was like it was really
Like a professional.
confident and stylized. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just like really stylized crooner, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so nice. I mean, I really, I mean, first of all, thank you for entrusting me with the song, Tyler. And it was such a jewel. I love working on it, and it's your performance is amazing, and it was a very inspired piece for sure, you know, to work on, you know. And then I don't get to collaborate like this that often, and for I'm assuming this is the first ballad under Circuit Preacher, right?
I would say like proper, yeah, because I wrote Not Your Judas, which is a little bit ballady, maybe like 2 years ago, but that
Mm.
one's a little bit on the like,
That still is like very edgy and
It's like
yeah,
darker, yeah.
yeah, it's a little drivey, like it has kick the whole time, so I don't think I would consider that a ballad really. So yeah, I guess probably is the first proper ballad, but yeah, anything I'm doing with my voice is really just byproduct of me not having lessons and having nice people around me that have believed in me. So just no lessons mixed with. I mean, it's kind of like you got to be confident enough to do it, do the take.
Yeah.
You have to believe in yourself 24/7, 365. But when you're on stage or you're in the studio, you got to believe in yourself.
You gotta do it. You need the mojo.
Right.
Well, yeah, I just love the song and congrats you too. I think this one's gonna do very well. And I really well, it's already done well. It was a real creative victory for both of you guys, it sounds like. Sounds like a wonderful creative process. And that's where we decide the song is a success, right?
Right.
Regardless of what happens from here.
also one of
If
the
you don't,
easiest collabs I've ever done. It was He's so easy to work with.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's like it really helps when you're coming from like a same kind of philosophical place and I mean then things just like lock in, you know. It's I mean of course it's like that, you know. It's such a vulnerable thing to do, you know, with a whole nother person.
yeah,
Especially when you're used to doing it on your own, you know.
Yeah, guards down.
Yeah.
Guards have to be down.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't be afraid of with people. Yeah, when you're working with them on projects like this, just, you know, very, very open. And it was a very, very open rapport. Yeah, it was easy. Actually, I wish everything was this easy.
Well, on that note, I will thank both of you for being here today. And yeah, love the song and continued success to you both. And yeah, we'll be in touch over the big IG.
Thank you so much
awesome.
for
See you.